Welcome back to another live post-game edition of the North Star Takes podcast. Once again, just a crushing defeat, this time to the San Francisco 49ers. And Liberta, it just seems like new week, same story with this Vikings squad. Defense, once again, just a train wreck, and they already had injuries to start the game. And as we saw today, it seems like every time we go to San Francisco, it's just a complete nightmare. Guys getting hurt left and right. Kirk Cousins looking like he was a shell of himself, especially in the second half of today's game. And overall, just, we got screwed by officials too on some missed penalty calls. The challenge that when we challenged to see if Thielen caught that pass, they somehow ruled that not a catch, even though it appeared plain as day that it was a catch. So obviously, I don't want to blame the officials because the Vikings deserve to lose this ball game. The second they gave up, 21 unanswered points?
Yep.
So, where do you even start? Do you blame the defense? Do you blame Kirk for just not being able to really step up and compete in a shootout? Do you just blame the overall luck of the Vikings with these guys getting hurt? Dalvin Cook suffers what could be a pretty significant shoulder injury. Sounds like it's a dislocation as of right now, but they'll learn more tomorrow. Darisaw got hurt. Not really sure the severity of that injury. Anthony Barr left the game with a hamstring injury. So, what are your thoughts here? It's just an all-around complete nightmare.
Yes, everything you just said contributed to this loss today. I'm pissed off. I've had it with this crap because I found myself more fired up about this game in the moment than any other game this season. And I don't really know why, because it's I came in with the expectation that we're probably going to lose. Something just doesn't feel right. We've won back-to-back, won a huge rivalry game at home against the Packers. Basically enough to get everybody to buy back in and be like, oh, yeah, this Vikings team, it could be a sneaky team that nobody really wants to play. They're going to make a nice push for the playoffs, probably squeak in and be a tough out. But no, we come back this week and just put together a sloppy performance. And I knew it was going to happen because we were all talking about it pregame. This just going to San Francisco doesn't really give me good vibes. I can't remember the last time we won there. And good buddy Jim Sturm filled me in that last time we won there was 2007. Granted, we only played there 3 times since then, but still 2007. So that obviously isn't really a fresh memory for anybody these days. So that doesn't give you a good feeling. And then when our D-line is as banged up as it is, I don't want to make excuses. I'm done with that too. But honestly, I knew their run game was going to be good today, but cripes, we let them do almost whatever they wanted to. And we didn't put them in enough bad spots after first down to make Jimmy G actually have to throw the ball, because when he did have to, he really looked shaky. Especially early on. No, Jimmy G ain't it for that team.
No,
and that he's gonna be the downfall of them this season. It'll come, but it's just we had to play from ahead in this game, so they couldn't just pound the rock on every single play where they were giving it to Eli Mitchell, this rookie 6th-round pick, and he's getting 5 yards every tote. So that was frustrating. And then for the offense to have the ineptitude right away in the third quarter, turn over the ball right inside the 10-yard line both times, just spoon-feeding possessions to this Niners team. God, I'm just on so many levels. There's so many things wrong with today. It was a team effort loss, I'd say, because there's a little bit wrong with every phase today. Even Greg Joseph missed an extra point on that touchdown, which is great. Of course, that would happen in that moment. But that I think the one positive takeaway I'd have from today is that kickoff return looked good on every one of those chances we had, and including obviously the kickoff return touchdown that Mwangu host again for the second time in 3 weeks?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, and then to lose a game when you do that, when that rarely happens in today's NFL anymore, it's just super frustrating, and I can go on and on and on about all the different things I got mad about today, but we'll certainly unpack this as the stream goes along.
Yeah, I think my main observation / takeaway / take is basically the same take I've had throughout the majority of the season. What is the point of having Mike Zimmer here if this defense, granted they have a ton of injuries or missing multiple starters, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But this defense is atrocious. And some of these plays was just Kyle Shanahan clearly out-scheming, out-coaching, outclassing. I think I quoted it as undressing Mike Zimmer on national television, because Kyle Shanahan, every time we play them, destroys Mike Zimmer. There was we beat him once at US Bank Stadium. I want to say it was
week 1. I think it was the very first game with Kirk in Minnesota.
Yes. And granted, we got the best of them there. It was a bad game for Jimmy Garoppolo, whatever. other than that, Kyle Shanahan has completely owned Mike Zimmer whenever we've matched up with the 49ers, and it's been a complete disaster. And I don't know, man. Zimmer's lost it, I think. I mean, he's playing with backups, but some of this stuff is so you can just tell it's scheme when there's no one within 20 yards of a receiver, a fullback streaking wide open down the middle of the field, and nobody can match up with him. I mean, give me a break. This is we're past halfway through the season. We have what, 6 games left? I
Yep.
mean, come on. This is stuff that should have been figured out right away throughout the beginning of the season. A lot of these backups that are playing have been playing for a good chunk of the season. And I don't know. I don't get it. I know they're not going to fire him at this point, and they're in the playoff race, so they're absolutely not going to do that. They'll still probably make the playoffs. They'll probably be the 7 seed. I'm kind of guessing San Fran's going to, they'll have the leg up on us now for the 6 seed. So, but yeah, we're going to get the 7 seed. We'll probably play Green Bay, or I honestly think Green Bay could end up getting the 1 seed the way it's looking. I mean,
Yeah.
Arizona's just got to fall one more time, and Green Bay's got that tiebreaker. So I don't know, man. Not looking good for the Vikes. Green Bay, things are looking good. They beat the Rams today, so division's definitely on ice.
Yes, absolutely. And case in point, I think I'm glad you brought up Green Bay for this point I'm about to make, that we got them coming out here today and just beating up on a really good Rams team, albeit the Rams are struggling lately, but still, it's like Green Bay is suffering a ton of injuries just like we are, but like they're finding ways to win and we are not. Like today,
Yep.
I think that's the difference between these two teams is that I think it goes back to the coaching too with them compared to ours. Just that I think LaFleur is a good coach, and I think he's put together a good staff, put guys in good spots. Especially whoever that offensive line coach is, there must be one of the better ones in the league because I
For
swear
sure.
they always have a guy or two out on that offensive line, but they just stay steady and everything's fine. Rodgers makes it work, and all of a sudden they just continue to win games, even if the stats don't even really reflect like greatness, really, because like as of like before that Vikings game last week, I remember the Packers ranked like 23rd in offense or something. So like doesn't certainly jump off the page at you, but like they still
Yeah.
find ways to win games. That's what matters at the end of the day. It's not all about the stats. It's just finding ways to win in whatever situation might present itself in these matchups that you have, especially with these interconference foes. Like these are games you have to have. And like that's what makes me upset too. Is it's like we had this opportunity in front of us today to get a leg up on basically everybody in this wild card race, like beyond number 5. But even then, I think that was starting to come back into the conversation because
Yep.
everybody around us in the standings look like crap this week, except for the Niners who beat us. But
Yep.
they didn't even look that great today. But still, everybody else basically lost. Philly lost to the Giants. The Saints just got hammered on Thanksgiving and looked like a disaster. And then you got who's the other third team I was thinking of?
Eagles.
Eagles. Yeah, Eagles lost to Giants. Saints lost to the or maybe that was it. Maybe it was just the Saints and Eagles. But yeah, no, Panthers. That's what I was gonna say.
Panthers.
Just gong show out against Miami. So it's like we had this chance to get a leg up on San Francisco and everybody else by winning this week and get that head-to-head tiebreaker, which would have been huge. And then you're only a game back of the Rams who lost today, and now they're 7-4. So you've been a game back, and you also have a head-to-head matchup coming with them towards the end of the season. And they have a tough division. Gonna have a lot of games that they're gonna have to grind out and probably drop 1 or 2 at least. So like you got a real chance to move all the way up to 5 and play whoever the weakest quote unquote division winner would have been, which would have given you a much better chance of playoffs. But like you said, now the most realistic pathway is probably that 7th spot. Then you're going to end up with a really good team there sitting in that 2 spot in the NFC playoff picture. So, man, this just feels like a huge drop of the ball moment that we could have seized, but we just didn't. And that I've seen this too many times that it's aggravating because it's like subconsciously I feel like I fell back in the trap because I was consciously saying like I can't get sucked back into this, win back-to-back games, including against the Packers. You can't fall victim to this. Like I've been rambling here now for a few minutes and I'm going on and on and on, but it's just it's like subconsciously I feel bamboozled or something. I guess I would say hoodwinked and bamboozled.
And that is what this team has done since 2018, ever since Kirk Cousins has arrived, whether it's
no
his
coincidence.
whether it's his fault or not, I don't care. We're not having that debate. Since 2018, this team has done nothing but give you the highs and lows. It's a roller coaster week to week. I mean, last week, the high of beating the Packers, and we're only a couple of games back in the division. We control our own destiny in the wild card race. Oh, then you got to go out west to San Francisco and you lay a freaking egg and half your roster gets hurt in the game. Like, I mean, It's the same crap every single week, every single season for the last 4 years. And I like you said, you think that you tell yourself, I'm not going to get sucked back into it. I'm not going to get sucked back into it.
You gotta guard
But
yourself because you know this is going to happen.
yes, but then in the back of your mind, you're talking yourself into it. Like, oh, we just beat the Packers. We just beat the Chargers on the road. Like, these are good wins. But at the same time, we lost to the freaking Bengals when we had that one in the bag. We should have had it in the bag. The Cardinals game, we lost. We could have easily beat a team that's the best team in the NFC.
Yep.
The Lions, we barely beat them. Like, that should have been the glaring warning sign right there. After watching that Thanksgiving Day football between the Bears and the Lions, I mean, good grief. I can't believe anyone is even close to losing to that Lions team. They are horrific.
Speaking of that Lions team, that's who we got up next here, man. Campbell and his squad. I'd like to think we're going to play some inspired football off a pretty hard to swallow loss, but you never know within the division.
Yeah, and like we're probably going to be without Dalvin Cook, so like can Madison? I think Madison can do just fine against the Lions. I'm trying to. That wasn't one of the games Cook was out earlier this year, right? I don't think so.
I think Dalvin missed the Seahawks game because
and the Browns. No, he came back.
No, he came back for the Browns game. He missed the
What was
Seattle game. I don't know if he missed any other ones though.
Okay. Either way, Madison should be able to carry the load against the Browns.
No, actually, you're right. No, I think he might have missed that Lions game.
Okay.
Because Madison had remember Madison fumbled there at the end of the game, so I think
right.
That's why he was in the game, because I think Dalvin didn't play. I think
that's right. Yeah. Okay. So either way, right. Madison's done it before, but yeah, that like next week should be just feed Justin Jefferson week. They don't have a single guy on that team that can cover him, and once again today that kind of, I think you mentioned right before we started here, Jefferson had 9 targets but only finished with 4 catches. And it looked like Kirk was just sailing the ball everywhere. So obviously that's not ideal. Like Kirk just did not play a very good game today. He had a decent first half. Second half, he looked rattled, especially, he threw that pick basically right off the bat. Gave the 49ers their second touchdown instantly right away in the second half.
I don't know what he's doing. He threw right in the breadbasket. Like, I'm going to be able to live with interceptions he throws down the field, like, 50-50 ball like Thielen or Jefferson, where you're trying to make a huge play and it just gets picked off. Like, whatever.
And like what Savage almost had last week.
Yes, exactly. Like something like that. That's going to happen. Your throws going to be a little bit off. Happens to all the best quarterbacks. But when you're literally 5 yards away, you look at right into the linebacker's chest. Like, what is that? What are we doing? What are you possibly looking at there?
Yeah, I don't get it. And like, I didn't see it happen live, but I went back and watched the replay and it looked like a classic Kirk brain malfunction. It's like he like hesitated a sec. He almost did like a pump fake and then he threw it anyways. And then the guy was standing right there. And then you look to the right and you see Conklin open, I think. And then Madison's kind of breaking out for an open route right in front of him too. It makes 0 sense, man. Like his brain just shuts off sometimes.
And then after that pick, what do you know? The next couple drives, we're just throwing these nice little checkdowns. CJ Ham, a little bit of Madison, maybe a little bit of Dalvin on the outside when he's just going to get slapped. When you got a defender waiting for him to catch the ball 5 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It's just, that's just the same old, like, curling back into a shell, I guess. I don't know. That's
CJ Ham has to have the most catches of all fullbacks in the NFL, right? Like I don't know that off the top of my head, but he has to, right?
It certainly feels like it. I don't watch any other games where the fullback gets featured that much. I mean, even Juszczyk today had that one catch, and it's like this guy's Juszczyk's probably the best tight end fullback, H-back, whatever you want to call him, in the league. And like he only had 1 catch today. It's not like they were featuring him in the offense or something like it seems like we do with CJ Ham.
Yeah, it's unbelievable, man. And it's the same old stuff every single week. It's like it almost gets old talking about it because it's like we come on here every single week and it's like, well, Zimmer's defense still sucks and Clint Kubiak doesn't exactly know what he's doing and the offense went conservative and then it came down to the end of the game today. We didn't have any timeouts left, so we're kind of trying to run the 2-minute offense with no timeouts. Kirk's still throwing these dump downs to Madison. He can't get out of bounds. It's just a complete disaster. Then, the blown pass interference on KJ Osborne. I mean, it was just a complete disaster of a final drive.
Exactly. No, I wanted to bring up real quick when there's about 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter, we tried going for that touchdown 4th and goal. That whole sequence of events was horrible. So we get in that goal situation, thankfully, after the referees completely botched that Thielen catch that they just ruled an incompletion, went to review even, got challenged, and still they just took our time out. We're like, nope, it's incomplete. Yep. But no, we freaking get in a goal situation. When we pound the rock right up the gut with Madison back-to-back plays to gain like 3 yards or something, so we get to the 4 or 5, and then we're on a 3rd and goal. And on that play, what was it that happened? We tried to throw it to Conklin up the middle of the field.
Yeah,
That's what it
yep.
was, and like it was pretty tight window there. I think Conklin could have made a play on it, but I mean, like it would have been kind of tough. So I'm not gonna shame Conklin too tough on that one. But then the 4th and goal situation where we're just completely disorganized, where Kirk's telling Jefferson to come cross formation, like, oh wait, go back across this way. And he's gonna line up underneath Oli Udo. Are you kidding me? That was a gong show. And
Goes up and slaps Udo's butt like, all right, let's go.
Yeah, are you kidding me? What are you doing?
Uh,
And then we come out, so you have to burn a timeout on that, which is
waste of a
crucial
timeout.
in this game when you're down 8. So that's just wasting a timeout. And then we come back out, and then Kirk completely airmails Jefferson in the middle of the end zone. It doesn't even give him a chance, a remote chance. And then on the 2-point conversion, too, speaking of bad throws, just throws it right in the dirt. He's right in front of him. Hit him. Come on.
I know. It was bad Kirk today, man. And like you're gonna get that every once in a while. But the problem is this team can't afford it when the defense is giving up 34 points to the freaking San Francisco 49ers, who are by no means a wagon on offense.
Exactly. The margin for error is not there. So they have to execute on that because, like you said, the defense, it's a complete liability at this point. Defense has been dog water for 2 years now. So it's like, well, if our defense is going to be crap, then we better put up 40 points on the board every week.
Exactly, man. So let's get to Jim's comment here. I've had it up on the screen for a while, but he said he heard reports before the game that the Niners are looking to trade Jimmy G after the season. And I mean, I guess it makes sense because they got Trey Lance kind of waiting there, and Jimmy G is by no means impressive. I mean,
with all he played today, you'll get a bag of peanuts for him.
The extent of what he does basically is get the ball to Deebo Samuel as quickly as possible is what I've kind of picked up on. Brandon Ayuk too, he's a speedster, but it's not like Jimmy's making all these throws like on these intermediate to deep routes. He's basically just game managing. He's nothing special, and that's what's frustrating is the Vikings have the ability to fluster a guy like that, but obviously with the defense as beaten up as it is and just playing poorly, you're not really able to get after him and fluster him. So he was kind of able to just, game manage, get the run game going, get some nice little quick passes out to Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. I mean, other than that, yeah, Jimmy G's nothing special. And I think Trey Lance can be a really good player. So it makes sense that they're thinking about trading him.
Yeah. This also begs a question too. Real quick, I guess I'll add a thought to this Jimmy G trade conversation. I think he will get traded. I guess I don't know what his contract situation looks like after this season, but I think he will be traded because Lance is clearly the future there. I don't think they're going to sit on Lance for more than a year, and I don't see what Lance can't do that you think Jimmy G can. So I think that would make no sense for them to go into next season with Jimmy G again. So it's going to be Lance, and I have no idea who would take a stab at trying to bring in Jimmy Garoppolo because anything you saw today, that wasn't it. And that kind of begs the question. If we think about this, if we can't win on the road against the San Francisco team, who in my opinion, not very good. I think they're probably a borderline playoff team, especially when you consider the rest of the field competing for these wildcard spots. If you can't win on the road against the Niners, what team in this NFC above them do you think we're going to win against on the road in a playoff scenario?
None of them. Maybe the Cardinals because they play indoors. But honestly, other than that, there's no way we're winning a playoff game in Lambeau. There's no way we're winning a playoff game in Tampa Bay.
Against Tom? No way.
No. Dallas maybe, but I don't know. I think Dallas would carve our defense, honestly. I don't think it matters where we play a team like Dallas because I don't think they have a distinct home field advantage there as great as Jerry World is, and it's the greatest stadium in America, and it's America's team. It's Jerry Jones.
Oh my gosh.
It doesn't matter. They don't have a home field advantage. It's just they have a great offense, no matter who the quarterback is, apparently, because Cooper Rush just torched us when we played here. So,
and to play Dallas in any scenario, you probably got to get up to the top wildcard spot, which would have been in play had you won today, but we didn't.
Yep, exactly. So, like you said, we're more than likely the 7th seed, which means we more than likely Packers, Cardinals. Yeah. I would maybe take a game with the Cardinals, but honestly, the Packers, no way. I bet we get blown out at Lambeau Field, honestly, when we play there week 17.
I think that could potentially be the nail in the coffin on this entire era between Kirk and Zim. I think that game could get ugly, and I think that would leave a really would really resonate with ownership on what the direction of his team is in such a big game against your biggest rival. and for us to not show up for that game potentially, then I feel like that'd be the nail in the coffin, and we'd be moving on to something else after the season for sure.
And that's really like, honestly, that's what I have. That's what I'm looking forward to mostly. It's like, okay, can this team, make a push, etc., for the playoffs? That's great, whatever. Because the draft pick is already screwed. Like, they're not picking in the top half of the draft the way it's looking right now. So you might as well try to get into the playoffs and just see what happens. But I mean, all I really have to look forward to at this point is what's going to happen in the offseason. Who's going to be the next head coach? Who are they going to pursue in the draft? Is Kirk Cousins going to be back, or are they going to move him? Like, is Rick Spielman even going to be here? Like, that's what's going to be exciting as a fan, is there's going to be some change finally, because the stuff that's going on right now is just, it's not acceptable in my book. I know it's not acceptable in your book. It's not acceptable in a lot of fans' books. And I know, I was pretty early on saying we need to get rid of Zimmer, like it's just not working. But as the season's progressed, I feel like an overwhelming majority of the fan base is just sick and tired of seeing the same old crap week after week. And it's not a bad thing. Like, the Vikings are never going to be horrible. You don't have to worry about that. The Wolves have built a stable organization. We have great facilities, a great stadium.
Great fan base.
Really, yeah, great fan base. We have great players, honestly. We have a lot of good players on this team. Some of them are getting old and kind of running out of their prime. Some of them we probably need to move on from, but like, you're still going to have Justin Jefferson. Adam Thielen will still be around for a couple more years. Defensively, you'll still have Kendricks. Hopefully you can get Hunter back. Outside of that, I guess it's kind of up in the air, but like, Harrison Smith will be around a few more years, but he's getting older. Anyways, like, there's still good players here. And for the most part, there's been good people running the team, but I just think it's time for some sort of a change, because whatever kind of dynamic we have now, whether it's the head coach's fault, the quarterback's fault, both their faults, I don't care. It's just simply not working.
I think this is another game. I'm glad you brought up Rick there. Just, his job security possibly being in the air. I think today, case in point, I think this is a great example of wanting to go after Rick and his job and really call for heads here, because today our depth was on display. The depth that you kind of worry about in the preseason that could potentially end up playing in some games this year if guys got hurt or guys got COVID, whatever the reason might be, missing time. And our depth today, especially on that defensive line, look at who do we have playing out there? I mean, I saw Deshaun Bauer is back with the Vikings. I saw
And he was playing today?
Yes, he played a good amount of snaps today. I would probably guess at least 40%, 50%, just eyeballing it. And I was like, this is an old training camp body that's made his way back. There's this other guy, number 50, Smith. I'm like, I have no idea.
TJ Smith?
Yeah, who is that?
I don't know. I was listening to the radio call. Apparently, he's been on the practice squad for a month or two now.
Like, who is this guy?
We have Sheldon Richardson playing defensive end.
Can we not fill out a roster?
Yeah, like, okay. And I saw DJ Wanham. What did he have, a sack or two today? Like,
DJ Wanham actually looked like he forced some pressure, at least pushed some guys back into Jimmy G. But still, I'd love to see more love to see just better depth, I guess, more guys with higher upside.
So that's my thing, though. Is DJ Wanham currently, like, with Everson Griffin out, is DJ Wanham currently like the only defensive end on this team that's playable? Like, he has to be, right? Because like Patrick Jones doesn't really get in there much.
No, he doesn't. So yeah, you kind of bring up a good point that Wanham has to be, because, like you said, otherwise they wouldn't be playing Sheldon Richardson at the end. And then, speaking of Richardson, first of all, this guy could not set an edge to save his life today. I think, because I mean, granted, I can only critique him so hard because it's like we're playing a D tackle at the end, but
exactly.
But at the same time, how many cutbacks Eli Mitchell had today was just super frustrating. I mean, punch a hole in a wall, because I mean, how many times like the blocking would, like for San Francisco, would flush right, and then he just cut back to left because there's nobody there, nobody to be found. Sheldon Richardson falls down, Harrison Smith trips over him on a blitz, and then Mitchell's gone for a nice 15, 20 yards or something like that. I'm like, great, that's great. So our DNs must not be trusted beyond DJ Wanham at this point, and that's infuriating, because it's like we should have at least somebody to turn to, because it shouldn't be a gong show like this where it's like, oh, here's our guy DJ Smith who's been on the practice squad for a month or two. Like, no, We should have. That's the whole point. That Rick taking a boatload of players in the draft is that, let's hope these guys can fill out a roster, maybe turn into something
Yep.
someday. At the very least, be serviceable backups. That won't be a complete liability on Sundays if you have all these injuries at this horrid field that the NFL honestly needs to investigate, because it's like people have griped about this stadium for years, ever since it opened. Like, this turf sucks. Everybody ends up twisting knees and ankles, getting hurt out there. It's like, when are we going to really push the issue and go after the Niners for this?
Well, and why do you think the 49ers always lead the NFL in injuries? Like, it seems like year after year, the 49ers have the most devastating injuries of all the teams in the NFL.
That's a
Gee,
great
look
point.
at your home field.
Yeah, it's just crap like FedEx Field.
But yeah, I mean, that's a great point with Spielman, though. Like, what's the point of having 15 draft picks if you can only literally play like 3 or 4 of them?
Yeah, dude, I laughed. I straight up laughed out loud when I got the notification from my handy dandy Vikings app. It's like, let's take a look at the inactives list today. Nice. 5 of our draft picks from this year fell on that inactive list. We had good old Kellen Mond, who's been inactive for every game. Again, that's another story for another day, why he's not the backup over Sean Mannion. And then we got our guy, Amir Smith-Marset. Once he had like a toe injury or something, I haven't seen him since. It's like he's in the doghouse for some reason.
Which it doesn't make sense because he's another, not as explosive as Nwangu, but he's another explosive type player that you could either use on special teams, you could use as a gadget player on offense. Like, if you're not going to like feature KJ Osborne, then get a guy like Amir Smith-Marset in there and do an end around or something. Like, mix it up at least a little bit rather than throw 2 less passes to CJ Ham. I think he'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. I know exactly. I'm glad you brought up Osborne too. I cannot believe the guy walked away today again with a catch for 5 yards, and that was on the last drive. Like, are you kidding me? How are we not getting this guy involved? And honestly, it shouldn't even gotten to that 4th and goal to when they ended up scoring that touchdown. Like, on 3rd down, Osborne's wide open at the top, nobody near him, but Kirk never looks his way, and it's just all for naught. Like, we end up having to really get by the skin of our teeth on that possession to score that touchdown to Thielen in the back of the end zone. He made a nice catch there that felt a little questionable, but that's another thing. Osborne's disappeared, and that's just disappointing because the guy, I think, has the talent to play, but ever since the bye week, he's just MIA, and I really don't think that's on him. I think that's on everybody from Kirk to the coaching staff, play calling, not getting him involved. Like, I know I'm begging for Jefferson to get as many targets as possible, and I think he should, but at the same time, it would be nice to see Osborne get a few looks, I guess, compared to, like you said, taking away not targets from Jefferson, but guys like CJ Ham and the flat or something like that. Like, that's just stupid. And then going back real quick to this inactives list, another point I'd like to bring up is that we got guys like Chaz Surratt, who
3rd round pick.
Yeah, 3rd round pick, inactive, and he would have been huge if he was actually any good today because Mitchell and Bahar got hurt. Yeah. And then you got guys like Wyatt Davis, knee issue. Great.
But Oli Udoh gets thrown backwards into Dalvin Cook and separates his shoulder. Yep. Give me a break. Yeah, you can't play Wyatt Davis.
That's
unbelievable.
I don't understand that. And then Cam Bynum was actually hurt, so he's out today too. But
sorry to interrupt you there, but hold up. Throughout the week, Clint Kubiak said, maybe we'll play Mason Cole and Garrett Bradbury and play one of them at right guard.
My God.
What a great idea, Clint. Never thought of that one. Maybe it's because it wouldn't work because those guys have no anchor, and playing both of them next to each other is a horrible idea. I mean, these are the geniuses we have running this offense.
That's horrible. I mean, our offense still makes it work where we're like, I think as far as yardage goes, I want to say we're like a borderline top 10 unit, or maybe 11th or something coming into today, whatever it was. But it's like, if you had an actual like offensive focused head coach, you might take this offense to a whole level, a whole lot of new heights to the point where we could be a top 5 unit. Obviously, our defense probably lack a little bit more, but I don't see how
horrible. Who cares?
I don't see how it could get drastically worse than it is right now.
Exactly. It's the defense is shot. There's no, and like obviously Zimmer's time here is, the clock is ticking. There's no hope for this defense turning around to being a top 5 unit for the foreseeable future. It's not going to happen because I'd be willing to bet the next guy that comes in is an offensive minded head coach, and that's what it needs to be because all your really good pieces are on offense now, and you need to lean into that. And like if you decide to keep Kirk Cousins around and pair him with a coach that is willing to maximize him and hold his hand and tell him everything's going to be okay, just throw the ball up there and give him all the confidence in the world, that's fine. But like that's what you need to do basically if you're going to keep Kirk around. And you need to lean into this offense because you got a guy like Justin Jefferson. Thielen is still very good. KJ Osborne, like you just mentioned, has all the ability, but just they can't find him for some reason, even though he gets open. Dalvin Cook obviously sucks to see him get hurt today. Be interesting to see kind of what the future holds for him too. Obviously, he's got the ongoing legal issues off the field. Apparently, Everson Griffin claimed Dalvin Cook bought his gun for him, which that's a whole nother mess. But
Yeah.
so I mean, there's going to be some questions in the offseason, I'm sure, with regards to that. But then it's like, well, is Madison even going to be the guy? Like, Kene Nwangu, we'd like to see him get more touches. But then the offensive line, it's like, okay, Darisaw is pretty good. I mean, for a rookie, he's been solid. O'Neal obviously is good. I really do think Ezra Cleveland's pretty good at left guard. Like, he's done a pretty dang good job.
Dude, that's a
Center
good
and right guard
I
are
feel
a
like
complete mess.
Yeah, I feel like we haven't like noticed Cleveland, which is a good thing with an offensive lineman in the last couple of weeks. So he must be getting the job done at least for the most part over there. Like I'd have to look at the PFF grade, see if that reflects it. Sometimes that doesn't really do it for me, but
Yeah.
I think you're right. The huge holes are at center and right guard, and it's amazing we haven't been able to figure out when we've invested all these high draft picks and everything into it. And I still hope that Wyatt Davis could turn into a starter for us eventually, just because I don't want to have to burn more draft picks or whatever else on getting offensive line when it feels like we've done this every offseason for the last 2 years.
Well, that's my thing. Like, is Wyatt Davis not even getting consideration of playing because he doesn't fit the scheme? Like, is he not quite mobile enough to run a zone blocking scheme? Like, if that's the issue, then get these guys out of here.
Yeah, if that's the holdup and we're concerned about him getting out on the edge or something, yeah.
Is he going to get trucked backwards, thrown into Dalvin Cook, separating his shoulder? I mean, give me a break.
I don't. This goes back to playing 4 tackles on your offensive line at once. What are we doing?
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? Come on, we're just.
I honestly forget that Cleveland and Udo are not actual guards.
No, they're not. They all came out. Literally, all 4 of our guys that are playing right now. Oh my god! All 4 of these guys were all left tackles coming out of college. Each and every single one of them on their teams. Let's just put on a ton of left tackles on our offensive line. Are you serious?
Oh, they must like the arm length or something. I don't understand. I don't get it.
Yeah, like I love the ability to get to the edge, but at the same time, even then, here's what I have a big gripe with, and maybe I don't have enough football knowledge to really go after him for it. But think back to this play with Jefferson, the trick play when we threw him the screen pass. He could throw across the field to Dalvin, and mind you, that was a great play by Jefferson, and honestly, a pretty creative play call by Clint. I was impressed. But at the same time, how did we not put that in the end zone on that screen pass? It's like Dalvin had all the space in the world. We had 3 guys out in front, and we literally had numbers, and we had 3 guys, a double team on 51, whoever it was. How do we not plow that guy over? And he ends up being the one that forces Dalvin out of bounds where he get in the end zone. And was that the drive? Did we end up finishing that drive? I can't remember when that was in the game that happened. Can't remember if that was the one where he turned it over on downs.
I think that's the one that Madison scored on.
I think you might be right. So yeah, it didn't end up affecting the drive in the end, but still, like, how are you not putting that in the end zone? We had the whole right side of the field there. So it's like, if that's, we were specifically drafting linemen for that, to be able to get on the edge and make these blocks and do this and that. But if they can't even do that, they can't double team this one guy out of the picture. What?
That's one thing I've noticed considerably this year is our screen game is so much worse. And I think it's because a guy like Oli Udo can't get out and run. It's because a guy like Mason Cole, I think, lacks in that as well compared to like Garrett Bradbury. I think Ezra Cleveland's pretty good at it. I guess I'm not really sure about Darisaw. I haven't seen too much of him getting out and running, but like it just kind of makes you wonder, maybe that's what they liked about Dozier is he could get out and block in the screen game. But then it's like you need to find an offensive lineman that can do a little bit of everything. You can't have a guy that can just, pull on a run or push forward for a run up the middle. Like you need to have versatile offensive linemen that can do more than one thing in all aspects of the game. I don't understand what they've been looking for at that position. And it seems like they don't really know either. Cause like you said, they have 4 left tackles starting on the offensive line and 2 undersized centers with no anchor.
It's mind-boggling how we keep going back to this idea of moving guys in their positions. I mean, obviously we were trying to make it work with Bradbury because his former first-round pick, and at least he played center in college, so it wasn't like this is out of position for him. But the rest of these guys, like sticking Udo, this guy who had never played guard in the NFL or at all in his football career until we get the training camp. It's like, all right, no, we're gonna try you at right guard, and then we're gonna go the season with you, and you're just gonna have to be good right from the jump.
Yep.
So I have problems with that, and yeah, Cleveland, that was another guy we took in the second round, being like, oh, this guy could be the tackle of the future. But then we started him out rookie season. Let's put you in a right guard.
Yeah,
Like,
right
who
guard.
cares? Are you kidding me? And then this season, it's like, all right, we'll make you the full-time left guard. But it's like you said, these guys, there's no anchor there. They get bowled over and pushed right into our running back, causing a catastrophic injury, which is just, I think it felt like icing on the cake for this game. Like, this sucks that Dalvin got hurt, but I mean, this always happens in these disastrous games. Feels like Dalvin gets hurt, and it's
Yep.
just collateral damage because when it rains, it pours with this team, and this drives you nuts.
Exactly. So let's take like a quick pause from this Vikings because we need to mention that Minnesota sports overall had a great weekend.
Oh yeah,
Um,
totally.
the Timberwolves have just been really great lately. They're only at 500. I think they're what 10-10.
Yeah,
But I mean, they've been playing good basketball. A really good win against the Sixers after Towns falls out. D'Lo just puts the team on his back. You got the Gophers taking the axe back from Wisconsin, which granted, of course, the Gophers couldn't beat Iowa a couple weeks ago to put themselves in a position to get to the Big Ten championship game, but it's still a really good win for the program. Wild had a great win today. That's where I was. That's the reason I missed 3/4 of the football game. Wild are the best team in the state right now, and it's not even close. I mean, they just beat the two-time defending champs, Stanley Cup champs, Tampa Bay Lightning, 4-2 at home. They pretty much dominated. There was a couple periods throughout the game that the Lightning had the best of the Wild. They were in their zone quite a bit, but we outshot them, which really surprised me. Just a really good overall win for the Wild. So great weekend for Minnesota sports outside of the Vikings. And what made me think of this was Jim's comment here. Apparently, he's not too happy about the Byron Buxton extension, but I think that's good news for the Twins as well, getting their star center fielder locked up.
Oh yeah, I think it's a perfect contract for Buxton. Basically being a baseline of like 14 million a year, which honestly I think is worth it for him for as many games as he can possibly play, and then having the incentives added in there to reward him for huge seasons if he does play the whole year and enters himself in the MVP conversation. So I think this honestly saved my day, in my opinion, from being super pissed because I Buxton, that was the biggest thing to me with the Twins. He's my favorite. he's my he's my favorite player in Minnesota sports, let alone not just the Twins, but all the teams that we follow. So this was huge for me. So I think this kind of salvaged my day. But I know other people may feel another way, with including Jim, that Byron Buxton's still in the picture. But
Yeah, I think they had to do it. Otherwise, they were pretty much acknowledging they were in it like a 2 to 3 year rebuild. So
true.
I think keeping Buxton around, keeping a guy like Polanco around, at least gives you some pieces to try to be somewhat competitive this season. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, to be able to just get rid of a guy like that, basically just let him walk and get nothing for him in return. I mean, that would just not sit right with me because he'd go to like the Yankees and turn into a star.
I
He'd
know.
finally stay healthy and it all come together for him. And
Exactly. I also love the full no trade clause added in there too. Forgot to mention that.
yeah, I saw that, which is great. But
Mm-hmm.
anyways, we can jump back into the Vikings. Jim also
Yes.
adds, we've been doing this for years with our guards, Nick Easton, Charlie Johnson, Joel Berger. I mean, he's right. I mean, these guys, I think Charlie Johnson was a tackle converted to
Yeah, he
guard.
was. Yeah, he
Nick
was.
Easton and Joe Berger were centers converted to guard. Granted, Joe Berger was actually pretty good at moving all the way around the offensive line. So
He was.
I would love to have a guy like Joe Berger back, honestly.
I know, dude. I remember ripping Joe Berger back in the day. I was like, this guy sucks. But I didn't know what bad guard play was until these last couple of years, where it's just been a revolving door of all this garbage. Because I'm so sick of that we keep sticking these guys in these spots that they're probably not comfortable in. It's like, on the one hand, the professionals hoping they'd be able to adjust enough to just be adequate, but on the other hand, it's like, how would we continuously have this problem for years on end? Like we continuously don't fix issues, and like we do it on a grand scale with like this guard problem year over year, but then like within the season, other problems that we just don't fix. It feels like we just ignore that they're there. Like, for instance, let's go on another topic of conversation here with this team
Yeah,
that continuously keeps on happening is the 2 minute defense at the end of these halves. Like
it's laughable.
66 points. Are you kidding me? you just knew what was happening today, though. Once Niners got the ball, 2-minute situation, 3rd and long, of course they convert and get all the way down there, and then punctuate with a touchdown right before the half to tie it when we could have went in the half easily with a lead. And at the same time, too, Zimmer completely not interested in taking timeouts in the first half and could have saved some time for your offense. Nope, we just let the Niners basically milk the clock all the way down, score a touchdown right before the half. So then that was it. And we're just tied in the locker room. And the Niners get the ball first. And of course, they come right out of the half, go boom, 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 right down the field, and score a touchdown. And all of a sudden, you're down 7 before you even blink. And then right after that, nice continues good sequence of events. Kirk throws it right into the linebacker's breadbasket. So then he can take it all the way back to like the 5. So, you know what? Punch it again. Let's go down 2 scores. So
Yeah, and we have to claw back with a team that's not built to claw back. And
yep, exactly.
That's kind of what I've noticed. Like Zimmer has absolutely learned nothing in terms of game management. And I think beating the Chargers and the Packers is 100% on the players and 0% on the coaching. Sure, they were more aggressive and gave, Justin Jefferson more of a chance to catch more passes. But, I mean, the players basically outperformed the players of the other team. And that's how they won. Like, coaching has done literally nothing positive for this team this season on either side of the ball. Maybe special teams, because special teams has improved quite drastically from the punter to the kick returners, even to our kicker. I mean, Greg Joseph's not perfect, but he's been pretty solid. There hasn't been any real turmoil there. So special teams is about the only area that I'm okay with. But offensively and defensively, the coaching has been horrible this season. And whoever you want to blame for that, if you want to blame Zimmer for the whole thing, if you want to blame Kubiak for the offense, Zimmer for the defense, what about Andre Patterson and Adam Zimmer, our co-defensive coordinators? What are they doing? Like,
yeah,
what are they doing?
I don't understand.
Like, because Andre Patterson's this defensive line guru who developed Daniil Hunter, and he's such a freaking beast. Well, okay, how come we have to go out and sign Michael Pierce, Dalvin Tomlinson, and bring Everson Griffin back from basically being washed a year ago? And now he's back, but now he's out again with mental health issues. And like, what do we have to show for it behind him? Nothing.
Yeah.
DJ Wanham hasn't developed much at all. Patrick Jones has done nothing. I don't understand, man. Like like you said, we're playing Sheldon Richardson at defensive end. We got this TJ Hill guy in there, or TJ Smith, whatever the heck his name is. I don't even know his name.
Exactly.
Like Armon Watts has developed into a pretty decent player, and this comment here, Lynch getting a lot of penetration. Like Lynch has looked pretty decent as of late too. But in terms of like developing a defensive end, like a pass rusher, who do we have?
No, I feel like at this point we have to take a blue chip prospect in the first round, which I mean there are some intriguing names out there depending where they will really fall in the end in that first round next spring, because like obviously a lot's going to change. Mock's going to be all over the place right now because we're so far out. But like as you get closer, you'll get a clearer picture. But maybe you have a chance at a guy like a Aiden Hutchinson, for instance. I don't know where he's going to fall, but he looks like a beast at Michigan. So I think that would be pretty fun because you just watched him in the biggest game of his life, the game that Michigan hasn't won in forever. And then all of a sudden he comes out and has like 2-3 sacks or something like that. So that'd be a nice guy to have. So at this point, that feels like the solution to our problems. Otherwise, you have to sign a bona fide defensive end, which maybe you have the cap space for if you move on from Kirk, and maybe you just double down and spend a whole ton of money on pass rushing with Daniil, give him in the bag, and then maybe sign another adequate one for another 15, 17 mil a year or something like that. But clearly the guys that we're trying to develop in-house right now just aren't it. So that's pretty disappointing. And like you said, it kind of begs the question, like what is our coaching staff really adding? What are guys like Adam Zimmer and Patterson really doing? Are they just faces? They're just guys out there?
Well, Adam is for sure.
Like it's just a joke. And let's go down this path let's consider how many more wins do you think the Vikings have this season if we have a coaching staff that is competent, like one that's like doesn't necessarily even have to be the best in the league, like a staff like let's say I don't know, Bill Belichick staff or something like that. Like how many more wins will we have as a team if we have just adequate coaching where they are good at clock managing, maybe not the best X's and O's guys, but like they just know how to manage a game more and really exploit your strengths of your team.
I think we beat the Ravens for sure. I think that's an absolute win. That loss is 100% on the coaching.
It's just a huge one lead.
I want to say the Browns game too, just because like we scored 7 points, right away first drive, and then we didn't literally did nothing after that.
And
We
it didn't
lost
take a
14
whole
to
lot
7.
offensively to have to win that game. Yeah,
No,
exactly.
like a decent coaching staff could have figured out a way to score more than 14 points in that game. Give me a break.
Yes, exactly.
Um, Trying to think of any others come to mind here.
Dallas.
Dallas, yep, for sure. I keep forgetting about the Dallas game. 100% on the
That's
coaching staff.
that's criminal. We lost that game. And Cooper Rush went Dallas the last 3 weeks. They look like crap. Obviously, they just beat up on a horrible Falcons team, but they should
Yeah.
have at home. But then they come out on Thanksgiving just looking really uneven against a Raiders team that lost 3 in a row. And
Yeah.
then when they just got worked, by a Denver team that really has been very up and down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an embarrassing loss for this team.
For sure. So, yeah, there's probably at least 2 or 3 games in there that should be flipped just simply based off the coaching. And I'd like to think that in that Cincinnati game, we would have come out way more prepared to start the season with a
Good
better
point.
coaching staff. Like, we probably would have never been down to Cincinnati if we didn't have an incompetent coaching staff that completely just screwed up everything in that first half. I mean, I think we had there was bad challenges in that game, wasted timeouts. Obviously, Zimmer not clock managing well. Like, I'm pretty sure that was a rough game, game management wise, from Mike Zimmer as well.
Yep, totally agree. It's so many penalties that we had. I remember back to that point I think that's a coaching thing. That just not having the guys prepared. And you can obviously say like any of these games we've lost this year when it keeps getting brought up week in and week out. It's like we've had a 7+ point lead in every single game we played this year. So
Yep.
should not have as nearly this many losses. So like you said, even if you're like playing it modestly and giving us like an extra 2-3 wins, then you're talking about a 7-4, 8-3 record right now. And then you're actually like in the thick of it for the division, even though Green Bay is playing very well and winning a lot of games, you're still right there. So
Yep.
yikes. It just makes you really question the coaching for sure.
Yeah, it's extremely frustrating, and I'm ready for it to be done, man. Like, it's just I just don't get it. I don't get how they can't learn. Like, is Zimmer just too stubborn to learn? I don't know. The writing's on the wall at this point. It doesn't matter, but it's like it really Zimmer really could be a really good football coach if he just wasn't so dang stubborn because he's got the smarts. He knows the game inside and out, and it's not like he doesn't care. He really cares.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like a Leslie Frazier who's just a ho hum kind of guy. Oh,
He's
it's okay if we win. It's okay if we lose. He's not like a player's coach type guy.
Zim's a football guy.
Zimmer's a football guy, and that's what just blows my mind. Why he's so conservative, how he's so horrible with game management decisions. And I think part of that stems from just being way too wrapped up in what the defense is doing, that he's not really focusing on what the actual game is doing. So I don't know. It could have gone differently for Zimmer, I think, but he chose his own path. He wanted to be defense only. He wanted the offense to kind of do their own thing and trusted the coaches on that side of the ball to direct that half of the team. And he's paying for it because he's not doing a complete job as head coach.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. And like you said, he's a guy you want to root for, I think, just because he's there's certainly been a lot of different things that have happened that have been kind of fluky here, like over his eight-year head coaching career, and that stems from a variety of things, from like the kicking woes we've had. I've never seen a coach so snake bitten by kickers,
Mm-hmm.
and that's partially due to him, I think, but
Yep.
not like totally. Sometimes it's just super fluky, and it's like, how does this happen? But on the other hand, you think about things like Teddy blowing out his knee a week before the season starts in 2016, AP going off and getting put on the commissioner's exempt list after a game into the season, and
Yep.
then you think about Tony Sperano dying before training camp even started, and then
Mm-hmm.
like 2 days before it started or something like that, and then you think about getting a quarterback that he never really wanted from with Kirk when he
Yep.
came out and made those comments at the combine a few weeks before we signed him, being like, "Yeah, we probably shouldn't pour all that money into that position because then it's going to take away from the rest of our team." And what do you know? But on the other hand, it's like he's just got to adapt, and I think that's the biggest thing here. Like you said, he's pretty stubborn, and you really can tell. Whereas, I mean, I'm not terribly familiar with Bill Parcells because um, that's a pretty throwback kind of football coach
Yeah.
because he hasn't coached in years. So I haven't watched many games of his or teams he's coached, but you can really tell, like, just in the way he talks. Like, for instance, if you watch that Manning cast last week that he came on to during that Giants and Bucks game, and he was basically sounded like an old school football guy. He sounded exactly like Zimmer, and it's like I could see how Zimmer, when he sounds like that, how he coaches just like he's from Parcells era back in like the 90s. And it's just like we say this week in and week out that it just doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work like that. So I think that's part of the problem with this coaching staff, at least.
For sure. Yeah, they need to get with the times, and they're not willing to do it. Just threw this comment up from Jim here because I just thought this was an interesting flex about how he umpired 154 games this year. I mean, congratulations, Jim. I'm really glad to hear that. But yeah, I mean, Buxton will probably never play 154 games in a season, but if you can get 120 out of him, he'll take that.
I totally agree because the guy can play at an MVP level and when he is on the field for sustained stretches. You saw it last year that he's just a naturally gifted player. I think he's one of a handful of guys, I'd say, in this league that has true 5-tool ability. Like, I don't, as good as he is, like other guys do have like varying skill sets where they're pretty good at one thing and they're not a liability doing something else. But like, I think he's really a 5-tool player that is extremely hard to replace. And that's why I'm really glad we're moving forward with him on this roster and keeping him around for the long haul, because I think this guy you can't find every day. So I think he could be integral to our success in the second wave with this management and coaching staff of the Twins. But
yeah, I definitely agree with you. And let's kind of like let's wrap up here talking about like Minnesota sports in general. I know we kind of talked about this earlier, but you and I were texting back and forth before this. You know, we were saying it's so easy to cheer for teams like the Wild and the Wolves because it seems like they truly enjoy playing with each other. It seems like there's good locker room camaraderie. You know, everybody likes each other. I saw there was a post. Jared Spurgeon had several Wild players over for Thanksgiving at his house, and like Kaprizov was there, Fiala was there, I think Foligno was there, Duhaime, a few other guys. But like, you know, they have team Thanksgivings, and the Timberwolves are showing signs that their locker room is strong. Like, these guys really like playing together. Obviously, everybody loves Ant, but it seems like D'Lo's taking on more of a leadership role. Cat's obviously critical to their success. Pat Bev has been a huge addition. Kind of sucks he's out for a while now. But Vanderbilt, go ahead.
I mean, heck, they were willing to fork over $250K for their meetup in Miami at A-Rod's house down there.
Which apparently Gerson Rosas just said, "Oh, we can let it slide. Like, it's not a big deal." So, anyways, Vanderbilt, kind of the energy bunny, you know, holding that whole unit together. It's like those two teams are so easy to pull for because you can see those guys love playing together and how hard they work for each other and how much they care about winning.
Everybody's on the same page.
You really just don't feel that with the Minnesota Vikings. Like, there's you know, fun players, good guys in that locker room. Thielen, Jefferson, Harrison Smith, Eric Kendricks. You know, you can go on and on about the good guys they have, but it's like, where is the camaraderie? Where is the teamwork? Where is the common goal? You don't see it with this team, and you haven't seen it since that 2017 season.
Oh, there's different motives everywhere from guys like Thielen and Jefferson, and I'd say Dalvin. I feel like these guys are all committed to winning, and they want to win now, win these big games. And you guys I feel like you got guys like Kirk. Maybe I don't truthfully know these guys, obviously, so it's hard to say for sure. But you just kind of get a vibe from a guy like Kirk that he's just looking toward his next contract, getting the bag again. Like, good for him. I mean, I'd love to get paid as much as he does and take advantage.
Clock out.
Yep, clock in, clock out, and just collect the paycheck. So then you got guys like Zimmer, who's just coaching for his job, and then you got even Spielman, I think, managing the roster and really making moves to save his own job. So it's like there's this different objectives, different motives here that are not aligned, and that causes for dysfunction and really some uneasiness when it comes to these moments of adversity like we have today with this loss against San Francisco. That would have been a huge step forward for the franchise, but it's like take one step forward, take two steps back. But
the Spielman Zimmer thing is the big one to me because these past two drafts, you've had opportunities to take players that maybe you didn't necessarily need, but could have been huge towards your long-term success. Like we drafted Jeff Gladney in 2020 draft. He was the pick. He was a first-round pick, but he was after Justin Jefferson. You could have had Antoine Winfield, who'd be looking pretty dang good right now. We wouldn't have Xavier Woods. you'd have Antoine Winfield and Harrison Smith playing next to each other on the back end. Fast forward to this past year, you trade back from 14 after failing to trade up to pick Justin Fields, who then goes to your division rival Bears. Now, Fields hasn't looked amazing by any means, but Matt Nagy's also an idiot, and he doesn't know what he's doing in Chicago. So
he's as good as gone after this year.
100%. He's going to be fired. So it's like, man, you could have had Justin Fields. You could have had Antoine Winfield Jr. I mean, you don't even have to go to Justin Fields. You could have had Mac Jones straight up without trading anything, which I know you and I were not on board with that just because the lack of mobility with this offensive line. We just kind of figured it'd be the same thing as Kirk. But I think Mac Jones has shown he has more pocket presence than Kirk. He has more poise. He's got the swag. I mean, he's not the most athletic quarterback in the world, but he almost doesn't need to be. And I think part of it as well is just that system in New England.
Great system.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Vikings are just – you look at these drafts and it's like, man, they're picking for need almost every single year in the first round rather than just simply picking a player that you know is going to be good that, yeah, you may not need them right now, but – hey, when Everson Griffin's old in 2 years, maybe we'll need a defensive end, stuff like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. And that's why we've gotten so snake bitten with these first round picks in recent years that just haven't turned out. It's because we're doing it ourselves by taking these positions of need that might not necessarily be the best value there. So that's why you always got to keep an open mind when you go into these drafts and really take the best player available, whoever you think is, because that can help your team a lot, even though it might not necessarily fill the best holes that you want it to, but you're still going to get a talented player that can help you in other ways that honestly could still be a huge benefactor towards not only your success in the immediate, but your success in the long term. And that's also why I'd say I'm, even at this point, like Mac Jones put together a great season. Good for him. I think he's played a lot better than anybody ever expected him to. But at the same time, at this point, I still don't regret not taking him. Like, I'm still fine that we passed on him because for the long term, like, it's great he's playing this well this season. But at the same time, like, I'm not playing for just this season. So I'm cool assuming whoever the next quarterback is like competent and somewhat mobile. That's probably what I want still going forward because I think Mac Jones is also being elevated a little bit because, like you said, he fell into a great system, a really steady situation where it's functional and it just works. So I think that partially has to do with the two, and I don't know if it would work as well here.
And I think as of right now, aren't the Patriots the top seed in the AFC?
I think the Ravens are right now, and depending on what they do on Sunday Night Football here as we're streaming this, they could move into that number one spot.
Wow. So that's crazy that the Patriots can have that rebound with a rookie quarterback just like that. But
I know, right?
I'm with you. I don't regret not taking Mac Jones because you and I both just want the dynamic athlete quarterback that we've seen with like Patrick Mahomes, Kyler Murray, the list, Justin Herbert, the list goes on and on. It'd be nice to get one of those guys, Russell Wilson. But what's your gut telling you about Kellen Mond, man? I mean, there's been zero reporting on this guy's progression. Like, obviously, the reporters don't really get to see much of practice, but like he's the third string, so it's not like he'd be taking a ton of reps. Because I think like in season practice, it's not like they're going through, like drills nonstop like in training camp, you know. So I don't know. Like I'm kind of getting the feeling Kellen Mond just can't play, man. I mean, granted, it's not even been a full year. Like he needs a full off season under his belt. But like, I'm pretty discouraged that like there's been zero talk of Kellen Mond whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't really know what goes into why that is. I guess I would like to hear a lot more steam about him, about some positive practices, I guess, just happening behind the scenes, and that would give me a lot more hope towards his long-term future. But like you said, we haven't heard literally anything. So that is a little bit discouraging, but at the same time, I still want to see more. I think I'd still like to give him a fair chance of being this team's quarterback because I think, as I've said all along, and since the draft, he's got the strong arm and he's got the mobility. So I'd like to see what he can do, but at the same time, it's like you can't also bet the farm on your third round pick turning out and being the savior. So I think you also have to consider your options. But I still feel all right about Mond. I don't think anything's changed for me. I still think he could be the future, but it's just like it's very hard to say because we've seen very little of him. So I don't really know what to say about him long term at this point.
So we got a comment from Marco here. Is that Minnesota snow getting to your white guy's head? The Niners are a good team. They just started the year off bad, and now they're locked into their true identity. Well, to start with, there's no snow yet in Minnesota, unfortunately. Well, or fortunately, however you look at it.
Yeah.
The Niners are good, and I thought they were going to be extremely good coming into the season. I figured between them, the Rams, and the Cardinals, that division was going to be really tough. And yeah, the Niners started off slow, but he does make a good point. They are a good team. They have a solid defense. Obviously, they have a great run game with their running backs. Doesn't matter who their running back is, really. Raheem Mostert's out, so they have Eli Mitchell in there. You got Deebo Samuel running crazy. Brandon Ayuk's a speedster.
Very great play caller.
Yeah, Shanahan's got a great system. Garoppolo's meh, but like he makes it work.
Yeah, Marco, I love what the Niners got as far as Kyle Shanahan goes and just putting guys in good positions to win. And that defense, I think, could be opportunistic. And I like guys like Fred Warner and along that D line with guys like Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead. But my huge holdback on the Niners, I think what's going to kill him is Jimmy G. I'm not a Jimmy G guy at all. I think he's going to end up breaking them in a game where they have to play from behind. He's going to have to throw their way back into it, and I just don't think he can do it in some tough environment on the road in the NFC playoffs against a team like, let's say, Tampa or Green Bay or something like that. I just don't see it, so I think that's what's going to bury him. But I think long term, I like Trey Lance a lot on the other side of this conversation, so
yeah.
I think that also plays into my disdain for Jimmy G, but I think San Fran, yes, they certainly are coming to their own and win 3 in a row or whatever it was coming into today. So can't discount that.
Yeah, and I think the 49ers are a better team than the Vikings. And
yeah,
I mean, you could argue the Vikings have more talent on paper, but it's like we could keep arguing about the talent, but it's like the talent's out. Like they're not playing. So that doesn't give me a ton of hope for the Vikings moving forward because half our team is out. But yeah, like the Niners are good, and I'm not saying this is a bad loss by any. Well, I mean, it's not a great loss, but basically our expectations for the Vikings are higher than, we lost to a good team, we'll be okay. It's like, no, we're 5-6 now. You just lost to a team that passed you in the wild card race, and like you mentioned earlier, you would have maybe had a chance to sneak up and grab that 4 spot if you keep winning games because the Rams keep losing. The division's not quite out of reach if you win this game. There's other things at play, but losing today's game hurts you in so many different ways other than just, it's the 6th loss of the season. So we're looking at it more through the lens of the big picture with the Vikings rather than they just lost to the San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think you summed it up well there. I think it's just more about the Vikings holistically being a team that's around them in the standings. And like, if you can't beat those teams, like how you expect to beat the top teams in NFC, like, that group of 5 that we've been talking about all year long, from Arizona to Green Bay to Tampa to Dallas to LA. I mean, we've already lost to Arizona and Dallas, and we're going to play the LA Rams, see what we're made of here towards the end of the season. But let's just hope we're still in it at that point.
Yeah, that's a great point. You look at the playoff field as it currently stands. We lost to the Cardinals. We did beat the Packers, but I'm guessing we'll probably lose to them at Lambeau. Lost to the Cowboys. We play the Rams coming up. Lost to the Niners. Bucs we haven't played, but they beat us pretty good last year, and I don't think much would change there. So you look at the current NFC playoff field, and it's like, could we win a road? Like you mentioned earlier, could we win a road game against any of these teams? I don't think so. I really don't.
Hard to say it right now, especially after this loss.
Yeah, no kidding. Do you have any other final thoughts, I guess, before we wrap it up here?
Yeah, we unpacked a lot here, and I think there's a lot to be unhappy with from this game today, but it depends what your goals are here for the Vikings the rest of the season. I think that 7th spot in the NFC and a playoff berth in general is still very much at play because I think the teams around us in the standings still aren't very good. From anybody in the NFC East to really anybody in the NFC South except for I'm assuming the Bucs and the Cowboys have their divisions locked up. I think they're running away with it. And then all the other teams in both of those divisions are still kind of at play for wild cards. I don't think anything of any of them with the injury problems that New Orleans has down there. And then everybody else, I just don't think has enough talent on their roster right now. So, truthfully speaking, I think there's no reason we can't make the playoffs still, but it's like, that's not really what I want to get to. Like, it's not just what make the playoffs, but making the playoffs and actually making noise. So I guess that's where I would leave it at. Not all hope is lost for making the playoffs, but I feel like hope is definitely getting any hope you built up the last 2 weeks feels like it just faded away again because of this loss and being able to actually make a push in the playoffs if we get there.
And my observation is if you're going to be a good team in any league, you need to go on some substantial winning streaks. And I
Sure.
was thinking about this with the Timberwolves. Like they won six, was it 5 games in a row, 6 games in a row?
5 in a row, 6 or 7. Yeah.
Yeah, 6 of 7. You need stretches like that if you're going to have a good season because the Timberwolves previously had lost like 6 or 7 in a row before that. So,
Yep. Yep.
like the Vikings, you can't just win 2 games in a row. If you're going to go somewhere,
Got
win
stacked.
4, win 5, maybe win 6 games in a row. Teams do it. I think the Patriots are on like a 6 game winning streak or something.
Yeah, I think they start 2-4. I think they're 8-4 now.
So, I mean, teams do it all the time. It's not illegal to. I know it's not easy, but like it's okay to do that sometimes. And they've been in every single game. I mean, every game's been like a one possession game, so it's not like they haven't had an opportunity. But it's like if you're going to do anything in any league, you got to go on some sort of winning streaks. And this team is just like I said earlier, the roller coaster week to week. You never know what you're going to get, and that's why this team is always around 500 because they're looking really good one week, the next week they're way down, they're looking like crap.
Yep.
It's the same thing every single week, every single year, and nothing is going to change until some changes are made.
Yep, totally agree. And I think there's a very real possibility of us potentially winning 6 in a row if we'd have won today because we'd had 2 wins from the last couple weeks, had this one. Then your next 3 weeks, you play at Detroit, then you play at home against Pittsburgh, then you go on the road to Chicago. And those are all very winnable games. So it's like, well, man, we really could have won 6 in a row and went from 3-5 all the way up to 9-5, which would have been put us in a great spot. And going into that Rams game where maybe you're playing for the 5th spot in the NFC, and then you have a much more winnable game there. Just much more winnable game there to win on Wild Card Weekend. But instead, now let's just lose this Niners game, lose that head-to-head tiebreaker, fall back farther in the division race on the same day. The Rams lost the game, gave you a chance to move up. It's great.
Yep. So that's just the Vikings. They can never. If the Packers would have lost, I mean, that Rams Packers game could have gone either way and helped us out. And of course, it doesn't matter because we lost. So it's always frustrating. It's the life of being a Vikings fan. That's why we come on here and talk about it, get our frustrations out. But
it's great to get off my chest.
I'm sure it is. And you can sleep better at night.
But, yes, exactly. I feel relieved then, at least a little bit.
But yeah, so that'll do it for this edition of the North Star Takes podcast. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, please do so. We're a Minnesota sports podcast. We don't just talk Vikings. We talk Wolves, Wild, and Twins as well. Maybe we'll even find a Gophers episode to fit in now that they brought the Axe back to Minnesota. So give this video a like. Help us reach other Minnesota Vikings fans who are pissed off and frustrated after today's loss. And feel free to give us a follow on both Twitter and Instagram. And thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more videos throughout the week.